Who's your emergency contact? Who should be notified in case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Just 18 months ago, I was in a cell. And, I missed out on things, missed out on a lot of things. Like the simple things, like sitting here right now making breakfast. I'm trying to make an omelet. I'm cooking up some sausages. I got some eggs over here, some bell peppers and stuff. And, like, it's just, you don't really know what you miss until you're taken away from it. We sit out here and we think that some of the things that we do, chasing this money, keeping up with the Kardashians and all that stuff, is worth our freedom. At the end of the day, it's not, man, because, just imagine the 20 years that I spent in there, because I went and robbed the bank and got $7,000 out of it. I lost 20-something years of my life. The last 20 years, I could have been building an empire, working a 9 to 5, whatever. But, a lot of the things that lead us to these things, to do things, are all by design. And what I mean by that is that, at the end of the day, we all have responsibility to ourselves, and we have the freedom to make our own choices. But that's not to say that there's conditions that don't push us into making certain choices or into feeling that we don't have a lot of options, And part of this thing is the formation of gangs. Back in the days, I know you've heard about it before, like when developers wanted to build up houses and stuff, for them to get contracts, for them to get approved for these permitting contracts to build these properties and stuff, part of the stipulations was that they couldn't let certain races, the black community or Mexican community or whatever, move into these certain neighborhoods. And we all contribute that to racism, right? We always say, oh, it's the racist white man, it's the racist this, it's the racist that. That's only the half the truth, because at the end of the day, there's no denying that there's racist people in our community, there's racist people in our state, in our country, and all throughout the world. But throwing everything, making it as if it's racism, is almost misleading, because it's really not about racism. It's about the ruling class, the elite, that benefits from our division. And we, as a people, we fall for that shit. We watch TV and we hear these things. Oh, this is racist this is racist that. And we all fall for it. But we don't stop to realize that some of these people that are pushing this racist narrative are people that look like us, that's supposed to be looking out for us, but their agenda and their politics is detrimental to our growth, the beginning of all these different gangs and stuff, in the beginning, they were organized to protect themselves from the authorities, from the police, from the people that have their foot on their neck. And, I'm going to get into almost kind of like conspiracy or whatever, but you guys can believe what you want. But, being in the penitentiary, listening to these old heads, there's a lot of people that was in there that were considered to be political prisoners, and and they schooled me on a lot of things, during the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King era. Like, yeah, there was a lot of dudes that was locked up that came from that era, from the Martin Luther King, They were kids. They were in their teens when Martin Luther King and Malcolm X was running around doing what they were doing, trying to bring light to the all the stuff that was going on in that time. That's why my brand, is a silhouette of a flaming Buddha, and it was inspired by Thich Quan Duc, who, at the same time that was all this stuff was going on out here in America, the same shit was happening over there in Vietnam with the government, with the president. He was trying to, get favor from the Vatican, and John F. Kennedy was the president at the time, and he was Catholic, so he wanted to be in good grace with them. So he decided to, thought it was a good idea to try to convert a nation that was 80%, 90% Buddhist into Catholic, into Christianity. And he thought the best way to do that was to run around and let his troops and his policemen loot the monastery, beat up monks, and all that stuff. Well, Thich Quan Duc, was tired of that shit, and he wanted to just show the world what was happening down in South Vietnam. So he martyred himself. He set himself on fire, burned for 9 minutes, and didn't make a sound, protesting the atrocity that was happening to his people. And through our history, we have a lot of people that's come through our community, our world, that's been trying to shine light to what's been going on with us. And a lot of these people, they mislead us by the way they represent their movement, saying they're fighting against racism, that all these racism is happening around us, that these whatever, white people and all that is keeping us down, suppressing us and all that stuff. Well, for me, it's not racism as opposed to elitism. The people that rule the world, the one percenters, the Rothschilds and the DuPonts. The reason they made society the way it is that they want to keep us at each other's throat. Because if not, then we're going to get along and we're going to work together, and then we're going to realize who the real enemy is. So going back to the USP, it's a mentality that a lot of us has come to understand. The prisoners outnumber the guards and outnumber the administration, but the administration, they don't want us to get along, because if we get along, then we're going to see that they're the enemy. They're the one that's keeping the gates closed. They're the ones that's got the guns and suppressing us and all the rest of it. But you got a lot of these dummies, these closed-minded, small-minded individuals that just can't see the bigger picture, because they're able to have some type of benefit from our division. But we can work together. It's been proven in there. For example, when I was in Lompoc, we had a dude named Texas Danny. He was the dope man on the compound. He was, whatever his connect was, however he was doing it, he was able to bring in pounds and pounds of weed, pounds of dope, and all the rest of it. And when he got it, like his business model was to let everybody eat, every group, every race, every gang. Like if you had the money to buy the stuff from wholesale, he wasn't going to stop you from getting it. And they had Crips, Mexicans, white boys, Asians, all the rest. He did business with all of them. And me working in a dental lab, I got to know them and their little crew. And I was able to get in within the circle and be able to get plugged in and hustle too. So the first year I was there, he opened up a football ticket. And I ran a ticket for him in M Block. And Earl Dog, I think he's a Crip from LA. I think he might be from Rolling 60s, and I could be wrong, but he's from one of the Rolling gangs or whatever. And he had the K unit, and the homie JD, who was a Sereno out of San Diego, he ran the ticket out of F Block. And there were white dudes that ran a different unit. There was other Mexicans, other blacks that ran all these different units. And we were able to conduct business and get along, and at the same time come together and have each other's back when there was things that was happening that would disrupt our business. I say that to point out that we can get along and that we should, and that it's beneficial to us that we do. You know, a lot of these gangs in the beginning were created in one aspect or another to protect their community, and it was a just cause in a way where because you have the people, the police force or whatever that was coming around beating up your people, harassing your people, and the only way to fight back was to organize yourself and protect yourself against them. But when these people, the elite, and we're just going to go away from all the racist stuff, because it's not about racism. Again, I'm going to emphasize it's about the people that are in the ruling class, that are in power, that benefits from our division. Because at the end of the day, what they want to turn us to is a slave. We do the labor, our energy builds the community, builds society, while they sit up there on their mountain and move the chess pieces around. And there's agents of these chaos that live in our community that helps these people by creating division, by creating chaos within our community. So when these elites seen that these people in the community were starting to organize, they sent the CIA into our community and start pushing dope into our community. Now, in the 80s, the 70s and the 80s, a kilo of that powder was going between $30,000 and $50,000 out in Florida. But the CIA was bringing it to dudes out here in California, going to the hood, going to Oakland and all these different areas, and it was like, hey, we got a key for 2 racks. Like, who's not going to jump on that? They're going to see, oh, this is a way out of poverty. There's a way to get rich and all that stuff. Not understanding that they had a plan in place to really destroy your community. The CIA came in, pushed all this dope into our community, and then when they left, they gave the list to the DEA. So 2 parts. First, they destroyed your community by injecting this poison into your community. And then after that, they let the DA come and take you off the street. And now you have generations of kids growing up without their parents, without their fathers, without their mothers, and all the rest that comes with that, that business. My brand is BMA, baddest man alive. And to emphasize, that has nothing to do with gender. It's a mentality. And it's a mentality of unity, mentality of trying to strive to be great, understanding who you are and the power that you have within you. We can come together and get along. We've done it. We do it in prison all the time. In prison, you have Crips and Bloods that kill and beef with each other on the streets. You have Mexicans and blacks that kill each other on the streets. You have whites and blacks and everybody else that beef. But now we're stuck in this box. We can't go nowhere. We understand we can't go nowhere. And we understand that it's not going to be beneficial to us to just keep slaughtering each other. And for the most part, we're able to keep the peace. And I know I tell you a lot of stories about all the violence and the chaos that happens in there, which it does. But you have to understand that even though all those violence, people getting their heads chopped off and stabbed up and all that and all the rest of it, they're not happening just for the sake of happening. Just because somebody's bored and want to do so. You know, these things are placed, these violence and stuff that happens are people trying to enforce laws and rules that these dudes keep breaking. We have laws and rules in place to coexist. That when somebody deviates from that and start causing turmoil and chaos for their respective group, then they got to get dealt with. And then if you got dudes that want to back a bad play, something that's wrong, well, they got to be held accountable too. But for the most part, considering that we have these violent individuals that's in prison able to coexist, for the most part, as they do, is a testament that we can come together. But it takes all of us to reach that certain consciousness, that certain level of understanding that we are not the enemy. I'm not your enemy. You know, I'm going through the same struggles as you're going through. I'm trying to figure out how to feed my family. I'm trying to figure out how to put food on the table. I'm trying to figure out how to have some savings so that when I do run into really, really rough times, that I'm able to take care of myself. But the way that our community is designed is to keep us suppressed, to keep us divided, to keep us from coming together. And we got to stop being dummies and falling for that shit. You know, I've been thinking about, what I've been doing out here and where I'm going with all of this. My objective when I'm sharing you videos and sharing stories about the penitentiary isn't just to glorify the penitentiary. What I've been doing for this last year is building my credit with you. Then you understand who I am, showing you that I'm a person of integrity. Not just by saying and sharing the story with you, but showing you every single day I'm out here trying to live my life according to my brand, PMA. So that later on down the road, when I finally figure out what it is that, how to go about sharing my message, that you can say, yeah, that dude's a real dude. And it's not going to be me convincing you. As you see on the videos, the people that comment that's been locked up with me, I've tried to conduct myself that way throughout my whole life. I'm not saying that I lived up to it all the way. I fell short here and there. But there's a lot of people like us that are starting to realize what's going on out here in the community and are coming together and are reaching out and want something better for us. But if you watch the news media and all the rest, they want to contribute everything to racism. Racism this, racism that. It's half true, but you know what? The elite, the people that are in power, they can care less about these white people that live in the trailer parks. They look at them just like they look at the rest of us. As look at blacks or look at Mexicans or whatever. All we are is a commodity. We are the working bees, the working ants, the laborers that builds their society. While we're down here fighting for scraps, they're flying around in private jets and spaceships. So for me, I want to call them dudes out, these gangsters. I think it's time for us to come together, man, and start a movement of unity. There's power within our community because, when you see the news and stuff, all these people that are in business, all these people that are in the corporate world and politics and all that stuff, when shit goes wrong, every single one of them is pointing fingers and telling on each other. There is no loyalty. There is no integrity. There is no honor with these fucking people. It's me, myself, and I by any means necessary. But down here, out here in the street, we really value those things. Honor, loyalty. Yeah, we've been putting all those things in a in the wrong aspect, in the wrong direction that's causing us to lose our freedom, that's causing us to lose our life. But these people, there's things about them that sets them apart from the rest because they're able to organize again, organize, you know, their community. But again, they're doing it in a way that is allowing the authorities to come and take them away from the world. And I really believe like the system is set up to find these individuals because we know in our core, stop it, in our core that there's something wrong with the way society is made up. That there's something wrong with the stuff that they're teaching us in school. There's something wrong with our history. You have to understand they control every aspect of our life. From the time we were born till we die, all the information comes from them. And they can manipulate the information however they want to fit their needs. And I really think it's time for us to start thinking for ourselves, to understand that we are not each other's enemy, that we are brothers and sisters in the struggle. When you see my comments, when I reply to comments or when I, reach out to the homies and stuff, I'm all like, what's up, brother? Love you, brother. Because I really believe that those are my brothers. I really love that mentality that we are brothers. And I don't know how I'm going to accomplish this, but I'm not one that's going to just sit around and wait for somebody else to do it. And I really want to encourage everybody to be part of this movement, man. This movement of unity. And begin to fight back. But fighting the right people. Fighting the guilty party, not each other. Welcome to the USP.